Good morning everyone, I hope you're all well. So just into February now, and we're still in the middle of this sort of cold, miserable spell. The prospects for next week are a little bit better. The weather starts to warm up a little bit. For today we've got another fairly miserable looking day by the looks of it. We got a drizzle for the first couple of 3 hours this morning, so the sort of journey there should be like this. But it's going to be fairly cold again today. It's going to be sort of 4 or 5 degrees maximum, but with a little bit of overcast skies, you never know. What I've decided to do today, I'm heading back down into Suffolk, a little bit further past Shingle Street, sort of the next mark really, and that is East Lane. So it's about an hour and 45 minutes drive, of which I've done about 20. So yeah, the plan is to head down to there today. Once I get down there, we'll go through all the usual setup. One thing I will say is there's no facilities at all at East Lane. So it's literally just a free car park and straight over the seawall or up onto the seawall, and then you've got the option of fishing back of the car park, or probably where I'm going to head, slightly left towards the rocks, which I'll show you once we get there. So why am I fishing East Lane? Well, this sort of time of the year, in the past, it has thrown up the odd codling, and I would assume the conditions are not going to be too bad today. With the way everywhere's been fishing at the moment, absolutely dire. You know, there's been not even that many whiting around the last week or two. Various theories to that. Some of the commercial boys are saying that there's sprats up in the water. The whiting and the bigger fish then chase these sprats up in the water, and obviously are not feeding on the bottom. Don't really know. But this time of the year, as we've said in the last couple of videos, January, February is also always very tricky. And so, yeah, what I'm going to do is more or less a shit or bust approach today. I'm going to fish 2 rods with reasonable size baits and go for it, if you like. Right, so I'm going to get this part of the drive done. I'm now heading just into Beccles. Once I'm in Beccles, I'll just cut through and join the A12, and then it's a fairly straight A12 journey most of the way down to sort of the Woodbridge area. Once I'm at Woodbridge, we then veer off to East Lane. Well, welcome back everyone. As you can see, conditions haven't got any better. It's been a pretty miserable drive, to be fair, and a little bit slower as well, with all the traffic obviously taking it a little bit more easy in these conditions. So I'm now just looking for the East Lane turn off. It's about half a mile up here on the left. So after I negotiated my way to Beccles, I then headed across country and joined the A12 at Wrentham, and then it's literally been the A12 all the way along, virtually to a turn off to Woodbridge. So you skirt around Woodbridge and then you follow the signs from there for Bawdsey, and you go past the turning from Shingle Street. We carry on, and now we're just coming through the little village of Alderton, and as I say, just up there on the left is the East Lane turning. So the plan today is we've got a high tide here of 12:45, so I want to try and be fishing by around about 10 AM. So I've got just under half an hour to get there and get set up. They're very tight, these little lanes. Yeah, it is a question of taking your time going down here, because cars will literally come around the corner, a single track road virtually, with passing places. Not far to go now. Just around this corner I can see the fence on the top of the wall. And there we are, it's the car park for East Lane. over 1 hour and 45 minutes, but again, that's because of the weather conditions. So I'm going to get parked and we'll sort some gear out. Right, so this is the car park. It's just a bit more rain now, but that wind, I've just gone up onto the top of the wall there and had a look, and that wind swung more south today rather than southwest, so it's sort of hacking straight across the front of that fence. So what I'm probably going to do is go round and walk along the back of that path there, down the end of the there's like a walkway there with a fence. At the end of the fence it goes down onto some rocks. I might be able to walk up there. Needs to be somewhere I can get the shelter up today, because I think we're going to have this weather on and off all day, and I'm going to need a little bit of protection from the wind as well for filming purposes. So this is a car park, free parking, and now what I'm going to do is get some gear on quickly before I get damp and wet, and we'll make our way down the top of the wall. Okay, so this is a little bit of wall at the back of the car park where you can just hop over. And there's a little wall like that running all the way along there, so you could quite comfortably get your rods down there and fish straight out. The problem is today is the wind's coming from straight in there, so that would have caused a few problems. I wouldn't have probably been able to get my shelter up on there. I don't think it has been as comfortable. Right, so I've walked along. I don't know if you can see that building, those trees sticking up. About a 10-minute walk, I suppose, along the top of there. Nice path, a little bit muddy and wet today. And as you can see, I've come just past the end of the rocks where I'm onto the shingle bank. So effectively, although today's video is East Lane, and that's exactly where it is, if we pan round behind me, you can see this is the actual end of the shingle bank at Shingle Street. Head of a walk from Shingle Street, it's a little bit closer here. So yeah, the idea was, it was a little bit windy, and straight off the back of the car there, off the back of the rocks. So get my shelter up on the shingle. Okay, so at this point I'm just getting ready for my first test cast. I'm using my Tawny Pro Mark IIs. Now I've gone back to the pens today, and they're loaded with £20, a little bit more heavy duty, because there's the prospects of obviously getting snagged or a bit of clay about, so I use those rather than the Millionaires. £20 mainline, £70 shock leader as usual, and that's a 6-ounce plain lead. I'm just getting ready now to give it a first wet the line, if you like. Just lay that down on the beach, get a nice foothold and pull it through. And I was quite surprised to see how far that went out, considering that wind was sort of cutting in at an angle to my right. But that went out lovely. Not much of a drop there, a little bit shallow, but there's not really much I can do about that. So now the job is to get the line lay on the reel, check the settings for the magnets, and then we'll get that back in and put a rig on. Right, so today's rigs are going to be, as I say, fairly basic today. I've got 2 pulley rigs there, both fitted with imps, and 2 different hook arrangements. So I've got a single hook with a bait stop there. That's so I can change it over to a fish strip now and again. Maybe look for a bonus ray if there's one about today. And the other hooking arrangement is a standard pulley pennel, 2 hooks. There's a little 3/0 on the bottom and a little 1/0 chinu on the top, just to hold the bait in place. 6-ounce dumpy leads, that should do. I'll give it a start with those. I've got 7s if I need to go any bigger. Bait wise, more or less my usual setup for bait. I've got razor clams, frozen blacks, some squid, and in that little bag there I've brought myself 4 or 5 little defrosted hermit crabs, which I used in the summer for the smooth hounds. They liked them. I know that they do use them out on the boats and catch codling with them, so they'll be worth putting one on now and again to give it a try. I've also got a couple of my herring what I always bring as well, so let's get a bait on the hook and get it in. Might catch nothing without a rod in the water. first bait ready to go. That's a black and razor clam cocktail, 3/0 single hook. Look at later than I wanted to be. It's nearly 11:15 now, so 45 minutes later than I thought. But we've got 2 hours now of the flood, and then I'll fish some of the ebb down as well. So while that's out there starting, I'll get the other rod set up straight away so it's ready. And all being well, if that comes back nice and safe, and we don't lose any gear, we'll be fishing. Right, for anyone who hasn't seen one of these hermits, this is what it looks like once it's out of the shell. I actually get mine already shelled and frozen, but if you get them in the shell, gently crack the shell, and that's what you're going to be left with. This is the sack, soft part down the bottom here. That's obviously the head part, and you've got some legs and normally a couple of claws. This has only got one claw on there. But what I normally do is I remove those claws, and when I'm fishing for the hounds, I do take all but 2 legs off. And then once I've bound that bottom bit up into a fairly tight parcel, I just leave the 2 legs trailing below the hook. And that seems to work. So what I'm going to do today is probably do the same. I may take them all off and just use that body part as my bait, and then just before I put it out, when it's all bound up on the hook, I give that a good stab with the old baiting needle to get all the juices out. The idea is to try and get it baited up with the elastic without bursting that, because that's where all the main part of the scent is. So let's try and get that baited up now. So once most of the legs and claws are removed and you've got that laying on the baiting tool, what I'm going to do is put a gentle wrap round just to keep it all in place, same as you would any other sort of bait. It's got a couple of little claw bits right at the very end, keep them tucked in as well, and as I say, try and get the elastic round without bursting that sack at the bottom. What you can do if you want, put a little bit of squid on there or something to just firm it up a bit. Going to give it a bit of support once it comes off this baiting tool. So that's it, all done up with the elastic. Looks like that. Today, as I've got loads of razor clams, what I intend to do is put a little bit of razor clam over that soft pouch bit at the bottom where all the juices are, and I'll now whip that on as well. That just gives it a little bit of support for that soft sack juices down the bottom. That's the bit virtually done now as regards to forming it as a bait. As I say, you don't have to leave that claw on. I just think that may be something that might attract the bite. Don't know. The hounds don't suit the mine. I've put whole ones on. I've literally put the whole thing on like that in the summer for hounds. They just pick the whole thing up. They're not worried about it. So now let's get it on the hook. Once it's off the bait tool, I take the 3/0, insert it into that soft end and feed it on exactly the same as you would any soft bait or even a worm. And what I'm trying to do is bring the hook point out somewhere up near the centre of the head. It's a little bit fiddly and it's a little bit hard sometimes. There it is. Once that's popped out like that, so there's plenty of hook points showing there, and then what I'll do is just nick that razor and soft sack part of the hermit into the panel hook and just tighten it all up. That's the finished bait. Let's get it out there. in here to warm hands up now. As soon as you go out there, you can see how cold it is. The snag for me in these conditions is I wear glasses. Every time I'm coming out of the rain, I have a special rag in my box just for my glasses, so I can actually see what we're doing. Right, so it's just gone 11. Both rods are now out. It's done for 2 hours now of flood. See if that brings anything. I've got a good idea. Time that's high tide, that's going to be almost at the bottom of this little ridge I'm set up on. If you look at the top of the ridge there's lots of weed, shells, all things that have been deposited there by previous tide. So I'm assuming that's where that's going to end up. In the meantime now, because I've got the removable hook links on there, I don't need to set up two. I can just set up a spare hook link now, baited, ready to go. So when I bring one in, I can just quickly change over the hook links, clip up, whack it out, bring that hook back, and then rebait that one. So I've always got a baited hook ready. Right, the right hand rod's at about a good 20 minutes now. So it's time to give that a refresh. Got the next bait, another exactly the same, black lug and razor cocktail, 3/0 single hook. Let's get that changed over now. Fingers crossed I'll get it back alright. Not been touched, that bait. It's completely intact as it went out, so I'll just have to keep doing that today. Keep running through the baits, keep refreshing them. You never know. Right, just about an hour to go now to a high tide. About time I brought that left hand rod in, that hasn't been in yet. Bait's all ready to go. It's another black and razor cocktail. So that's a couple of little pulls there, but I don't know whether that's just the lead being knocked out. Doesn't look like a bite. So the tip definitely moved. So I'm going to get that in now and have a look at it anyway. Recast. Okay, so as you can see from this, I went out to retrieve the first cast onto that left hand rod, and as I picked it up and wound into it, it looked like it was severely snagged. So I'd already been warned that there might be some clay out there, and that's exactly what this was. So with a little bit of gentle persuasion, I managed to gently ease it out of the snag or out of the clay and eventually get it on the move. This happened several times afterwards as well on subsequent casts. Nearly always that left hand rod, only once I think the right hand rod gets stuck in. But as I say, gentle persuasion, and I got it back, and when I inspected it, the lead was actually covered in a thick grey clay, so that confirmed it. It's just something I have to bear in mind for future casts. I tried casting it a little bit shorter the next time, but again, on the way back, it appeared to get snagged up briefly, and that again was a piece of clay on the bottom. So after a quick snood change, I recast that rod, went a little bit shorter just to see if I could avoid that clay. Simple off the ground cast, 60 to 70 yards I suppose. Quite shallow out there, a very short drop. Might as well do the other rod. Got the bait here, I've got a whole squid now on the pennel hook, which I just took off the other rod, so I'll put a whole squid on there now. Chopped it down a bit so it's not completely like 5 inches long, but it's 3.5 to 4. I'm going to put that on the right hand rod. So once again, as with the left hand rod, that was a little bit stuck in at first. Came out easier than the left hand rod, and when I did eventually get it up, there was only a tiny little bit of clay on it, so it may be on the edge of something. But it's something I was sort of aware of and virtually expecting every time after that. As before, removable snoods make this job very quick. One snood off, one snood on, and I can get it straight back out. Just have to reset the lead each time, make sure the wires are in position. This right hand rod, I was fishing a lot further out than the left hand, just slightly to my right, so exactly the same, off the ground cast, pull and push, and we're away. Pull on that side there now. See, it's a perfect colour. Yeah, absolutely untouched. So just by way of a change, I'm going to put a fish bait on there next. I'm going to prepare a little herring bait, and then we'll give that a try. Probably a little bit rough for rays, but you never know. Do is just put a couple of diagonal cuts through there like that, and the width of the bait I want, cutting it a slight diagonal just to make a slightly longer piece of fish. As you can see, you're going to get 5 or 6 out of that. When the rays are in, you get through these herring like no one's business. Can't see it being like that tonight. One for the seagulls, one for the seagulls, straight onto it. Might as well give them a feed up. Yeah, these are little sections now. I'll just cut straight through there. Straight through there. Back to back that fillet. That makes a perfect little ray bait. Once the 2 halves have been put in the bait tool and whipped up, that's what it looks like. About 2.5 inches long, plenty of gape sticking out. A little Arno stop there to stop it sliding up the line, and that's going to go out on the next cast. So that's another half an hour tick by with no indication whatsoever. About half an hour now to high tide. Left hand rod is now due another bait change, and I've got that little fillet of herring bait on there ready to go. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to change that over while we're talking about it. We're over the top of the tide now, and we're just starting to go on the ebb. Fingers crossed that might trigger something off the feed, I don't know. I know sometimes Shingle Street fishes better on the ebb, and this is literally the end of Shingle Street. But there you go. I didn't expect much today, but I wanted to come down here and have a look and give it a check out, because I'll definitely be coming back here in the summer. Potentially in the summer you're going to get smooth hounds off of here. Also you'll obviously get rays, because obviously Shingle Street is one of the most popular places to target a ray on the Suffolk coast. So I shall definitely have another go down here in the warmer weather in the spring. Yep, so I've got another hermit ready to go. That's the next change. I've got another herring ready to go on the other bait, on the other rod. The right hand rod now has had 25 minutes. So that's the one that I'm going to put the hermit on. What fish could possibly refuse that? Lovely juicy thing. Let's get it out there. Just slipped my version of a bar rig on there. It's exactly the same as a Bagnall bar. Instead of the metal bar, mine's made out of 80-pound fluorocarbon, fairly stiff. I just found it easier to get the crimps and spring and everything on that, rather than you need a special size of spring for the bar. So that's what's gone on there. It's basically probably gone out further than the pulley has, the pulley rig. And it also lays, but that one's got about a 4.5 foot trace laying on the bottom, rather than the 2 foot one on the pulley. Let's have another bait change. Well, a stuck record today, isn't it? There's not a lot else to say really. It's just after 2 o'clock. Probably got another 3 bait ups, 3 cards maybe, if I do one every 20 minutes. And then we think about calling it a day. So another nice hermit bait going out on the other rod. Okay. Let's just stick that in there. Tide's falling away quite rapidly now. Up we come, off the bottom, out the clay. nothing on there. Lid's tripped out nicely. We'll reset that straight away so I don't forget. And a quick bait change now. Off with that. On with that. And into the imp. Let's see how this one goes. Yeah, bright sunshine in the background over there. I'll give you a look in a minute on the camera. Right. Let's see what that does. It's unbelievable. It's actually as good as it went out, that bait. Crying shame. There's nothing out there to eat it. So there's the blue sky I was telling you about. It's brightened up lovely now. So you can see the tide's dropping away again pretty rapidly. There's my marker post. That was about 2.5 foot long when I got here. Got about a foot sticking out at the moment. Yeah, a little bit of decent weather coming in now. Wind's still a bit keen, still a bit sharp. Roll tops still haven't moved. No change there. So I've been refreshing the baits on a regular basis. But up to now, all in vain. Right, I suppose I better have a look at that left-hand rod, because that's the one with the little bar rig on. I've got the other pulley rig ready to go back. So I'll quickly get this set up and then I'll bring that in and change it over. And this is going to be a lug and squid cocktail on here. So let's get that sorted. Dropping away quite rapidly now. It's going down a lot quicker than it came in. Right, let's see if I can get this back, because it went out a lot further, this one, with this bar rig on. Now it's come out all right. It's light, there's nothing on it. There we are. Well, it's worked okay, it's all unclipped and everything, it's not been hung up round the lead. Looks pretty good, to be fair. That's what it looks like. Like the bottom end of a loop rig, and it's also like a version of the Bagnall bar. Very short. This material here is normally a bar of metal. I've replaced it with 80-pound fluorocarbon, all crimped up so the spring can work properly. And the idea is it hits the bottom, releases, pings off the top. It will do in the water. You're left with a 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, whatever long foot trace you want. Right, I'm going to pull these rods in now. It's just about 3:30. As I say, it was a bit of a gamble today. It did look okay this morning. The sea was a lovely colour. Just the right amount of chop on it. Always a chance. Unfortunately, fish gods have said no. So I hope you've enjoyed watching my blankathon, and I'll see you again on the next one. Right, let's get these rods in.